Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you are. We'll start this workshop. So, welcome everyone to another NAVH workshop. Today, we will be talking about the Working with Coordination Infrastructure DAO workshop. And we are proud to have with us Matthew Wright from the Consensus team, who will be taking us through this workshop. So this workshop will be recorded as with all our other workshops, and it will be uploaded onto your builder's guide in the resources page once it's ready. So do keep a lookout for that if you wish to watch a recording of it afterwards. But otherwise, sit back, relax, and enjoy this workshop. So I'll now like to invite Matthew to begin his presentation.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Can you hear me fine?
Yep, I can hear you fine.
Awesome, awesome. Um, should I put on video? What's everyone else doing? I'm happy to if I. Or I'll put on my. Sorry for all that. I'll put on my camera just so I can say hi to folks. There we go. Cool. Let me share screen. Alrighty. All right, everybody, how's it going? I'm Matt Wright. I'm going to be going into building for the coordination layer in Web3, which is relevant to DAOs, on-chain organizations, tokenized communities, any sort of coordination effort or multiplayer crypto where you're using Ethereum primitives to coordinate capital, work, or equity in a system. We see a lot of these tools being used in DAOs. So we more commonly refer to this as DAO tooling or infrastructure, but there's a lot of themes around coordination. A little quick background on myself. I'm currently the director of our accelerator program at Consensus. It's called Fellowship. We're going to be announcing details on that soon. It's the first of its kind at Consensus Software. We're basically inviting early stage builders to come and accelerate their startups with us in our product suite. So MetaMask, Linea, Infura, all the stack you've been working with at Not Another Virtual Hackathon. Um, Previously at Consensus, I also was leading developer relations for some time. And then for about a year and a half, I was on our crypto economics team, leading DAOs for Consensus and how we thought about DAOs from a product perspective. Um, in addition, I'm also a member of several DAOs, member of Metacartel, member and advisor contributor to WGMI, which is a DAO for community managers, and simply advising various projects in the space that are building for DAOs or working groups or this coordination layer. Cool. So diving into the topic here. So I think a lot of folks, see DAOs as one single thing. Um, and usually that one single thing is a company, a startup, it's an organization. But beyond that, it's a lot more than that. They can be communities, they can be organizations, they can be investment vehicles. I think the best way to think about DAOs is, for any need to coordinate, again, human capital or capital work equity in a system on chain, there's a huge need to manage identity, to manage import or export of resources, uh, to delegate work to various individuals, coordinate who's able to do that work, who's been vetted to do that work. There's also an onboarding process to this system, and you know, a lot of the DAO folks see this more as the future network state on Ethereum, but essentially disrupting the way humans organize on chain, um, and using tokens, using cryptography using blockchain infrastructure to make that process transparent, efficient, um, and accessible and composable. You can take something you do in one community and go to another organization, and you have all the same data or all the same, digital resume to take with you. Um, and so, we're kind of looking at this as the future of organizations. And so, in humanity, we've seen the evolution of, from the cognitive revolution. So, when humans begin to think for themselves, to developing kingdoms and more centralized institutions, and also at the same time having, tribal infrastructure. But this was all humans coming together, trying to coordinate resources, and we had to come up with processes and um, cultures and ways to identify members of the community in certain ways. And that brought us to more of the traditional organization, industrial revolution of sorts, and then to what we're seeing today around like the modern organization or the startup movement. All that we're doing here with DAOs and on-chain communities or on-chain organizations and tokenized communities is just adding this new layer of um, blockchain infrastructure that enables us to do so much more with again with tokens and with cryptography and the blockchain infrastructure. Um, and so we'll kind of dive into what that looks like and how everyone here can kind of wrap their mind around what is a DAO or what isn't a DAO. I think it's more of a question what isn't a DAO, um, and how do we take processes inside of these new organizations or communities that we're working with, and how do we slowly decentralize those over time versus trying to create this one organism of a decentralized autonomous organization that we've all kind of heard about for so long. I just want to give everyone a new perspective. So as you're building more for problems rather than this utopia of what is a DAO. Cool. So DeFi Dad posted this a while ago. I thought it was a cool, simple way to think about DAOs. There's a million different versions of what people think DAOs are. Do not take my word for it. Go do your own research. But um, I'm just trying to help you align to the problem at hand. But this is a cool, simple way to think about DAOs. But group of humans or AIs aligned with interests wanting to coordinate. They use a token for voting on chain. Uh, we call this governance. And they have a shared treasury controlled by smart contracts, or he puts a multi-signature wallet. Um, so basically, it is a group of humans coordinating smart contracts with tokens to allocate capital that is shared between the group. And so that's a very easy way to put it. There's so much more complexity to it where, um, you know, how big is this group? What are the decisions they're making when they, execute the decision making process with their token? Is it executing a transaction or is it just putting some sort of sentiment out there? There's a lot of different definitions of what truly is a DAO. But I think as long as you know, think about it from this small kernel and think about, how do you further decentralize or take um, centralized risk out of every problem set, you start to get closer to decentralization. Um, so obviously, like a group of four people being able to make the ultimate decision is not as decentralized as having 1,000 people who don't even know each other. Um, that's kind of what you want to get to, but it's really hard to get in the beginning. Cool. So how do we engage with DAOs? For anybody here who has contributed to a DAO, been a member of a DAO, there's a few ways you can participate. You can join a DAO, and these are more around the lines of these tokenized communities. You essentially could you know purchase a token that gets you entry into this DAO, and this is your membership. There's also various ways you can contribute work or sweat equity, and that's your way of joining. Either way, you're given a token, and there's an on-chain representation of you being a member of this organization. The token could be either an ERC20, it could be our ERC721, various other EIPs or ERCs. But these tokens represent your collective membership in this community. And there's a finite amount of these tokens, hopefully. Um, Contribute. So, once you're in the DAO, you can contribute. Usually there's a lot of tools where there's like bounty boards or there's a wiki for like, here's how you can, participate, or here's how you can um, pick up this blog, in exchange for some additional tokens that the DAO owns. So if there was like a Matt DAO and I invited all you to come contribute to it, I could say, we're gonna, like, we have collectively $1,000, and I want anyone that can write a blog post for the DAO will give out 50 Matt tokens. Um, and those Matt tokens, to some people might have zero value, but to some folks, those have a lot of value. Maybe they think it's really cool to be in that DAO. And so people will go and pick up that bounty, and they'll go and earn those tokens. And it starts to show who's really contributing to this organization on chain. You can see that, Alice and Tim, both uh, picked up that bounty, and they each have 50, Matt tokens, and they basically have the weight to vote on the next proposal that comes around. Like, how should we use the next $1,000? Because they contributed, and now they have a token that gives them the key to vote on those kinds of processes. And so that just compounds over time. And that's how you reach decentralization with these organizations. You're inviting the true stakeholders who contribute to these, communities or orgs, to be incentivized through like a token that represents capital. It represents the work that you contributed, and it represents equity or ownership into this thing. Deploy. So say you think DAOs are really cool, you want to start your own DAO. Very easy to do. It's very easy to do with smart contracts. It's very hard to do with running an organization or running a community. Um, if you're going to deploy, you can use a couple frameworks that I'll show later on. The most popular is Open Zeppelin governor contracts. You can also use DAO House, which uses Moloch V2 and V3 contracts. Um, these are like, the most de facto ways to go launch DAOs. There's also a lot of other folks that have, DAO in a box type models where it's one click and you get all of the bells and whistles of a DAO. I'm not a big fan, but I don't hate anything that allows you to have on-chain representation of a community organization. I think is a step in the right direction. But it's very easy to deploy if you have some light technical knowledge on smart contracts, or even just understand how to use wallets. You can deploy pretty quickly. Build. So you could also, once you get the framework up, there's various working processes that you have in a traditional organization. Onboarding, HR, payroll services, um, corporate finance or treasury management, community management, marketing. These are all things that when you start building a decentralized organization, you start to think, well, if one single person has to own the Twitter account, or one single person has to own all the blogs that go out or the newsletters that go out, and there's a central point or a single point of failure, because a single person or a small group of people have control over certain processes. Those are the places where you're like, let's decentralize that. Let's figure out how to use a tool or some sort of infrastructure that distributes that process, or fractures it in some sense, so that no single person has that authority. And so that's where we've seen kind of the essence of DAO tools come about. Is you've got groups that are struggling with problems like, well, if we have something like Notion, how are we supposed to pay the bill for Notion? Like, DAOs don't technically have a bank or a credit card. We just have a multi-sig wallet that we all decide on, how the capital gets allocated. And so people are building tools that kind of connect those two worlds. So something to think about when you're building for the hackathon. Govern. So this is probably the most popular stripe that you see with the DAO ecosystem. You have the two largest DAO ecosystems, which are protocol DAOs and investment DAOs. More so protocol DAOs, you're going to see big names like Uniswap, Maker, Compound, Aave. Um, you go to their forums, and these are just open to the public. The whole point of this is to have an open source organization, and you can go see their proposals for how they want to manage their treasury, how they want to manage their token economics, how they want to um, delegate authority or leadership to certain work streams. Um, and this is all based on the native token of that protocol. And this has become a really big um, process for various um, like whales or large stakeholders of tokens. So if you hold $1 million of Aave, you're going to want to participate in the governance process of how that token is managed, who's in charge of building the future protocol. Um, you know, are you giving, like, is Aave giving X million dollars of grant money to some other organization? Like, you're going to have some sort of decision power on that. And that's kind of the beauty of these open organizations is you can purchase these tokens and then participate in governance. And now you're essentially you're a large stakeholder, and you're putting a lot more time and effort because you have skin in the game with these ecosystems. The last piece is invest. If you think DAOs are cool and you just want to invest into certain DAOs, you could just purchase these tokens OTC or over the counter through a decentralized exchange like Uniswap or even like MetaMask swaps. You can go find a way to purchase bankless DAO tokens or Forefront, FWB, Developer DAO. You can buy these tokens on open DEX market for certain certain DAOs that are much smaller and have non-transferable tokens. This is more popular in the Moloch DAO community with groups like Metacartel and Raid Guild. You have to go through a tougher permissioning process to to invest or receive tokens back from these groups. So there's different ways you can invest. Some are a little more gated than others. Yeah, cool. So okay, so talking about the funnel, we just for folks that are building for DAO contributors, here's a few of the kind of layers you could build for. So as you're looking to join a DAO, you're establishing your goals. You want to find a DAO that fits your ethos. You then want to join that community, and likely you don't need to purchase any token yet. You're kind of just on the outside, being kind of like a lurker into the community. You then start engaging and seeing, how you can participate, how you can contribute, what you can learn. This is this very typical, community 101. This is kind of like those steps right there are just the basics of joining a community. Where it starts to turn into more of a DAO or a tokenized community or on-chain organization is when you start engaging. You start asking, how can I get involved? How can I support? And usually in Web 2, we volunteer our time, we pick up, work for like different events, and usually the hierarchy of needs that get satisfied are acknowledgement, potential career growth, building our network, things that aren't necessarily tangible, but are still very powerful. And what DAOs do is, there's ways that you can actually contribute and get paid in either a stable token, so like DAI or USDC, pretty much just collecting a paycheck for the work you've done as a contractor, or bounties. And there's also ways that you receive these native tokens, like I mentioned earlier, having like a MAT token or something like that. And so a good example is the bankless DAO community. A lot of folks get to decide whether they get paid in these stable tokens that are one-to-one for US dollar, or they get paid in native bankless DAO tokens. It's a spicy topic, but it's interesting because in these worlds you start seeing the transition from a community to, you're doing work for an organization, and so it does get a little spicy. Um, People rely on paychecks, but then there's other folks in these communities who just want to be there to contribute and are there for the vibes, there for the good time and to network. So you start seeing kind of this interesting kind of blending of uh, uh, the future organization, to be honest. Um, People get feedback. They create working groups. They start finding ways to at least what I've noticed in the past year, especially when things don't get done in these large groups, they start um, honing in on these smaller working groups, these squads, and they do it to be more effective. They get to be a little bit more decentralized, but they'll do everything on chain, and they keep it open for the wider community. Um, it's a little more gated, but it's more effective and gets things done. So those are interesting, pieces. I think if you're looking to build for coordination, that's probably where a lot of um, the need is right now is these small working group behaviors. So like if you have 5 people in a group and you all decide you want to work on some initiative together, how would you maybe deploy a smart contract that puts $50 in escrow for getting that test done? And if you get the test done, you get your $50 back. If you don't do the test, the $50 goes to the whole group, goes to the treasury. There's like these small little mechanisms you could create that incentivize people to get their work done, to be transparent about it. There's projects like Coordinape that are kind of doing this kind of format of things. Um, there's even tools like Utopia Labs or Safe that allows you to send capital quickly to these different members with some very light permissioning, but nothing. You don't need the whole DAO to agree that these people need to get paid, but your small working group can allocate these resources. If I were any of you folks looking to build in the space, I would be very interested on that kind of working group or future of work vertical. And there's governance participation, ton of people building for governance data. Um, you can look at projects like Boardroom or Tally. Those are probably the top places to look for governance. And I have a slide later. I'll show you all these tools. Cool. So, this is kind of the slide that we've been seeing for years around the DAO ecosystem. I find it to be a little bit outdated in terms of how we're organizing the thought making around the DAO ecosystem. So I've started to slowly build out a different thesis I want to share with you folks. This is another perspective, but the idea here is that no one size fits all in DAOs. There are these large protocol DAOs that are look a lot like corporations, but then you have media DAOs like Bankless DAO that looks a lot more like almost like a country, like a network state, a nation. They have imports and exports, they have identity, they have permissioning for that identity. There's also like smaller DAOs that are more like working groups, on-chain working groups. So just important to realize that there's not one thing that is a DAO. There's various verticals, but as long as you're a group of humans coordinating on chain, a treasury, and using smart contracts, you're working towards being a DAO. And so the way I kind of like to visualize it is, and like the ecosystem is, in these skyscraper type models, we mapped out different DAOs that we're seeing in the community. This is not all of them. There's, I would say, thousands of DAOs now. Depends how you want to categorize them, but let's just say there's thousands of working groups on chain. And these are some of the more popular ones we're close with. And these are these network states on Ethereum. These are digital countries that have their own culture, their own identity, their own way of allocating resources. The tools that support these groups are kind of down here as the infrastructure. And that's kind of what we're calling the infrastructure stack. Now, if you're looking to build for these groups and, you start building out these tools, I think it's important to keep in mind that, in the past year, we've heard folks say that there's too many DAO tools, or DAOs don't work. And sure, you can have that idea. Um, I would argue that as long as humans need to coordinate capital work equity, and we want to do it in a transparent way where we have ownership of these kinds of entities, um, there's always going to be DAOs. And so if you think humans don't like to, you know, collaborate, then you can be very bearish on DAOs. But um, I'm very positive that people do want to communicate, connect, share resources, make decisions together. And anything around those lines is kind of where we see these tools being built out. And I think what we're noticing today also is that yes, these tools were incubated inside of DAOs, but they're also very useful within Web 2.5 or Web 3 organizations. So how do you get your finance group to use like a Utopia Labs, which does like distributed payroll on chain, and so the ecosystem's slowly figuring out how to find better product market fit. And then yeah, we're just kind of showing how the modern organization or the traditional hierarchy that we've seen in orgs is slowly changing to this blended format of org structure, like org structure, but also community structure, because not everyone inside of these organizations are, um, you know, they don't work for this entity. Everyone's a contractor. Um, everyone, is a contractor at certain levels. Some are really just community members who contribute for acknowledgement and for membership. But it's important to know that these are like changing times. And here's a funny meme. I think this was by Kevin Owaki, but it's the joke in the Ethereum community is that you know organizations and communities forever have always just been coordination, and DAOs are also just coordination. Um, for anyone technical out there who's looking to um, you know look into like building one of these tools, I think the best way to think about it is, you know, from Web 2, Web 3, we have API app servers, we have an authentication layer, we have a database, we have client side, front end, platforms and libraries, and we have file storage for traditional web apps. In Ethereum, like you have all of this, but you also have smart contracts that talk to the blockchain. You have, when you're preparing to deploy something, you have your blockchain development environment, essentially an IDE. You have node infrastructure to think through, RPC providers like Infura, and you have decentralized storage to worry about, and then wallets. Like the idea of being able to take the composable data that you have on one community and take that to your next organization as an on-chain resume is super important. So I'm sure you folks don't need this slide, but thought I'd share it anyways. And then going a level above that, so if we're talking about everything we just discussed on Ethereum and what's new in blockchain versus Web 2, in DAOs you have something a little bit similar. It's a mixture of infrastructure and SaaS, but you have various frameworks, smart contract frameworks that enable you to take those tokens that are deployed and govern them. Whether it's you have a token so you can vote on something, or you have a token so you can vote on something and it executes. We also have ways for you to generate tokens and generate these frameworks in a very easy format. That's more of a SaaS. And then we have ways to do consistent voting or governance on these processes, ops, onboarding of the community, community tools like tokenized chat. So being invited to chats or forums because you hold a certain token, treasury or corporate finance, and then identity and access. So this is kind of like if you're deploying a DAO and you're trying to like go through the checks of like what tools do my working groups need or what processes, These are kind of, some of them that we're seeing in the space. Cool. I think we're good on time. Um, so this is kind of the landscape of some of the DAOs, more popular DAOs we've seen in the ecosystem, and these are the verticals they fall under. This is kind of a new way of looking at things that we've kind of taken a look at. Um, Everyone could argue what's a DAO, what's not. I think the most DAO-ish of the groups is these protocol DAOs. These are projects that take an open source protocol, DeFi protocol, um, you know, um, and attach a token to it that essentially has a value and has utility and allows you to vote on certain proposals. You're basically running a on-chain digital organization um, just by investing in their tokens. And then the more you invest and participate in governance, you actually get rewards by doing this. And these are typically the most robust and decentralized and have the most like assets under management, which in total, I think the DAO ecosystem has about $25 billion of AUM right now. And like protocol DAOs make up the majority of that. We also have service DAOs, which are very interesting. Raid Guild was the first dev shop as a DAO. So you essentially can pick up developer work, being involved in Raid Guild. They'll take on work in the form of cohorts or sprints. You have collector DAOs, which pool together capital to purchase NFTs. Same with investment DAOs. Investment DAOs and collector DAOs are essentially the same. Orange DAO is an investment DAO from a bunch of YC alumni, and they essentially pull together multi-million-dollar investment DAO fund to invest in YC founders. And they also the DAO itself is made up of YC founders, so it's a interesting way to decentralize that kind of a process. Seed Club, Metacartel Ventures. This is supposed to be Hydra. Hydra is a fun on chain, but these are just interesting verticals you can look at if you're building a DAO. Now, those tools that I mentioned that kind of help these communities or organizations flourish are your frameworks. You have Moloch, you have Governor with Open Zeppelin. This is Zodiac. Has a bunch of really cool roles you can use to decentralize processes. DAO House uses Moloch framework. So you can picture DAO House as more of a SaaS. It enables users to one-click deploy a DAO or a Moloch smart contract. Syndicate, Juicebox, Coinvise, they all do the same thing. They help you deploy a token and they help you deploy governance infrastructure. So two different types of smart contracts. We have projects that aggregate that data, that on-chain data, and make it useful for participants in these networks. And then we have governance tools which enable you to, if you hold a certain token, you can vote on certain proposals or processes. Operations, really cool project like Wonderverse, which I'll do a walkthrough later, and I'll do Sobel as well. These help you, basically run a on-chain decentralized organization by distributing capital or aggregating the contributors of these ecosystems. Community onboarding. So if you want to onboard people to your community or organization, you have to have a clear, standard operating procedure for how that would work. Do you have to hold a certain amount of tokens? Do you have to learn something before you join this community? Do you have to do something before you join this community? And so there's projects that are enabling that and leveraging tokens that represent participation in the community. There's also Mirror, which is more of like a, what's it called? It's like Medium, but tokenized. Paragraph is like Substack, but tokenized. And then Console is like Discord, but tokenized. Same for Common Ground. They're both like chats that are controlled by token governance. So if you have MAT token and I set up a console that only lets people with a MAT token to come chat, it's a really easy way to incentivize people to do some work and get that token. So that now you can participate in the chat. So we're starting to see a lot of utility. Corporate finance, we have projects like Hedgie Finance, which helps you tokenize your community. Safe, I'll do a demo of multi-sig safes a little bit later, where basically it's multiplayer crypto. You can have, $1,000 in a safe account, a wallet address essentially, and 5 people govern that single address. And so 3 out of the 5 people have to vote to send the money, um, or it doesn't pass. And so this is a way like for working groups to pass around capital while making sure that the majority of the group is okay with it. Just simple like corporate governance, corporate governance, corporate finance, uh, you know, permissions or rulemaking. Utopia Labs is like payroll services for Web3 organizations, and Superfluid does something very similar, except they do things called streams, where you can basically go and pay a contractor $1,000 for the month, but they're getting paid every millisecond, and it's just like streaming cash as you would see like streaming a song or streaming a video. So you should be paid, every minute you're doing work, and you should be able to withdraw that whenever you want, not have to wait every 2 weeks or a month for a paycheck. So Superfluid's helping do that. There's a lot of really cool projects here. If you want more details on these, I can go through them all with you folks async, but yeah, take a look at them. Collabline helps you like get gated into Discord. Otterspace has these NFTs that kind of help you do that. Disco is a decentralized identity tool. And then Hats is also similar to Otterspace. They have different roles, different hats. So if you want to have someone be the leader of a group on chain, and then the next week they're voted out of that leadership position, you can basically pass them a different hat or pass someone else the hat on chain with little friction. It's just another coordination effort. Cool. So I'm at the end. I'm gonna just go do a quick demo. Nothing crazy. I don't think I'll go through all these, but I can show you folks like govern, like if you're, or sorry, if you're looking to, deploy a DAO, you can go look at Open Zeppelin, their governor contracts. They have this cool wizard where you can actually go and play with, some of the parameters. If you wanted, it to be ERC 721 or ERC 20, you can, go check out their smart contracts and just kind of see how the stuff works. But yeah, this is a nice tool to check out if you're technical. There's also Moloch you can check out. This is maintained by Moloch Mystics. Essentially, it's similar to the original DAO infrastructure, and it's very similar to what Open Zeppelin can do, except this focuses more on non-transferable tokens, and they have a feature called Rage Quit, which if you don't like what's happening in the DAO, you can essentially leave your position and burn your tokens. So it's interesting just to check out those two models and dive a little deep into it. Zodiac essentially has all these different modules. So you can go and search to the GitHub and check through all the modules. But they have a rage quit function called exit. They have somewhat of a messaging bridge to control assets from different chains. I think so. The governor wants, just leveraging opens up a governor contracts. And I think the most popular one is the roles, right here, roles. So you're able to basically use a module to control, similar to hats, but you can delegate who's allowed to do certain things within your organization on chain. But yeah, there's a lot of other really cool tools here too. So check out these frameworks if you're looking to explore how those work. Oh, what happened? Oh, there we go. I won't go into DAO House. You can check out DAO House. Super easy to launch a DAO there. I will go to Tally though. If you want to see like all the DAOs, you can go to tally.xyz and you can see kind of how they're doing governance. Arbitrum is the largest DAO by AUM on chain right now. And you can go and check kind of what that is, what that means, what that looks like. You can see all these proposals people are pushing on chain. You can see how many addresses are voting for certain proposals or against. You can see who like has the majority of stakeholdership. There's even certain folks you can go and follow their actual profiles and see how much they're participating in governance. And so this is actually a very important thing for Ethereum where, if we're going to create these on-chain nation states, we need people that speak up for, the governance or the roadmap of these projects. And so it's super important that, um, you know, people are representing these groups. And it's actually been quite a campaign. Like people actually, it's almost like a bragging right that you're a delegate. Um, People really take pride in being a participant or contributor to this side of the ecosystem. So yeah, just cool to go explore like who's actually doing what in the space from a governance perspective. Um, then I'll show you. Um, Snapshot is cool. You can also go check here on different DAOs making proposals. The difference with Snapshot is most most projects on Snapshot, if you go check the proposals, it's a tool for helping you view community sentiment. So people that own Aave tokens can go and vote on these proposals, and they can also put up these proposals. However, not every snapshot proposal self-executes. You have to customize that. Really, this is good for like getting sentiment on a proposal from a community, and if it has quorum and people are like, "This is an amazing idea," then that's basis to take the proposal to execute it on chain properly. You go take it to um, more of the DAO governance execution platform. There's like sometimes communities use multiple, um, but yeah, Snapshot's really cool to go check out who's like how people are feeling about each individual community. Um, I'll show you Wonderverse, which is really cool as well. Um, so if you're, you know, starting your own working group, or perhaps you want to start figuring out who you can go work for, you can go and join organizations that are open on Wonderverse. Let me see. So yeah, you can go like technically this is your workspace. You could work for various organizations. But if you go to explore projects, you can go and see, why is it, oh, explore works. You can go and see who's putting up work for the community. And so if we look at like Gitcoin, for example, they have only a few bounties, but you can go pick up 250 bucks for building out some onboarding tools or looks like testing onboarding tools. Um, and I think this is like a tool that I think is going to be used more and more in the future, but being able to put your Trello board with a bounty attached to it to the wider community, I think is something super powerful. Um, Second to last thing I'll show you guys, sorry. So this is Sobel. If you want to see how DAOs are working, you should go check out Bankless DAOs Sobel account. I'm a big fan. You can, let's see, yeah, because I think I can open it. There we go. So you can essentially like zoom in, and you can go and see like who's a part of what working group, and this is connects to everyone's Discord essentially. And you go click in, and you can see what teams this person's a part of, any details about them. It's basically just making the organization open and transparent. And it's super clear for people who are in these orgs because they can see where everything is, who's doing what. it's super helpful just to get a bird's eye view of what you're working on. Last tool I'll talk through is Safe. So if you're, I mentioned it earlier several times, but if you're working on a working group and you all want to make decisions together, financial decisions together, you essentially can go and add your colleagues' addresses to a safe, and then you basically manage like a treasury together. And then when you go to run a transaction, you essentially would, um, you know, say where you're sending the tokens or what you're doing, and then it would basically run through this process of confirming whatever amount of signers you need to process the transaction. And so it kind of becomes this fun activity where you process it, and then you'll go, DM all these people in your group, and you're like, hey, please go check the transaction. We need to pay so and so. And there's even other apps here where you can go and I don't know why is this not working? What's going on? I don't know why this part's not working. They have a huge app ecosystem. Oh, that's why. I don't know what's going on, but usually they have it's a massive app ecosystem, and you can connect to OpenSea or um, you can connect to um, various like decentralized exchanges. Like you basically can go to Uniswap and say that you want to swap 100,000 DAI for ETH, and that's like a treasure, like a corporate finance or a corporate treasury decision. And you can go to your peers, and you guys can all decide that that's like the thing you want to do. They vote on chain, and you have this record that the majority of your working group equally decided that was the right decision. So this is just like multiplayer crypto. um, it is, I don't know, I'm a nerd, but it's a lot of fun uh, building things with people. And yeah, there's like a lot of other things we could explore, but I think that's about it. I think that's kind of what I wanted to show you folks. I can leave the next few minutes up for Q&A. Hopefully I didn't uh, burn anybody's brains. It wasn't like too much. Um, but yeah, I'm open to take any questions about DAOs or the coordination layer. But I appreciate you all joining.
All right.
I don't
Thanks.
know how we coordinate questions.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Matt, for the wonderful sharing about DAO. I'm sure everyone learned a lot. And I think lots of participants were quite awed at the different DAOs and demos that you showed them. So I think, yeah, that was a nice touch to the entire workshop. There was one question from a participant. So he asked, what's your 2 cents when you would like to build DAO mechanisms into the hackathon project? For example, how can you create a compelling network effect to kickstart a working group?
Yeah, so something interesting I would look into is if you're building with MetaMask snaps, if there's a way to um, take an existing tool or some part of the onboarding process and just put it in someone's wallet. I've been a big fan of trying to figure out how to do that. Because if you've noticed, like there's so many of these tools. So if you had some way to um, you know, aggregate this into a single interface or a single wallet, I think that would make things a lot easier. Also, I think a lot of the problem could be solved with account abstraction. I know account abstraction has been very focused on just wallet adoption, but um, perhaps there's that, and then perhaps there's just an easier way to have like single sign-on for every DAO tool that you're using. I don't think the problem is the DAO tools. I think it's the problem is consolidating or automating a lot of the process. I even think integrating AI would be super helpful. I think you might have noticed, but like in like things like Wonderverse or even like Snapshot, um, even Tally. Like when you create a DAO proposal or when you're asking your working group to do something or you're even onboarding to a community, there's a lot of repetitive content um, that I feel like could be solved by AI. Um, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of ideas, but yeah, I think people just need one single space to work with these groups. However, I've seen folks try and just put everything in a box, and I don't know if that's the best approach. I think you have to find a way to pull in the existing tools and the composable tools, because that's the beauty of Web3 is like if you use something like Xerion or Zapper, you're pulling in Web3 into this interface versus them trying to create everything and centralize it like an exchange. Um, I hope that's good advice, but yeah, try to consolidate what's already out there.
All right. Thanks, Matt, for answering that question. There's another question that just came in. He asked what is a DAO because he missed your definition earlier, but he would just like you to just explain it again.
You missed it? Oh man. I'm just kidding. Uh, well, good news is we have a recording, but I will go through it one more time. Um, oh man, what is a DAO? That's a loaded question, but I will give you the very simple answer, which is group of humans coordinating capital, work, equity. Um, we kind of call this value. Um, and they do that through a token, so ERC20 or ERC721, which is an NFT. There's also other ERCs you could leverage. And then these tokens govern a smart contract, like a governor smart contract, which controls a treasury of tokens. So if, yeah, that's the very straightforward answer of what is a DAO. Um, the more arbitrary answer is it's the future of organizations. It's the future of on-chain organizations. It's the future of tokenized communities. It's the future of network states or tribalism or civilization on internet protocol. You'll hear some very wild definitions of what are DAOs, but I think simply put, it's humans coordinating resources on chain.
Great. Thanks, Matt, for going through that again. All right.
Yeah.
So are there any other questions from the floor? We'll give everyone some time to type it down. Okay, we do have another question. So why are
Hmm.
tokens not DAOs?
Great question. Great question. So tokens by themselves represent equity or co-ownership of a finite allocation of tokens. Uh, you know, that can be broken down into like tokenomics, and that's a whole other thing that I'm not like a super big specialist on. But um, those tokens don't necessarily have utility alone. You have to deploy a separate smart contract that says if you hold this token, you can essentially vote on like this proposal or this decision. And so that's when you start getting these organizations that hold, um, like let's say 1 million tokens, and they say we want the community to decide what to do with those 1 million tokens. So they implement a like a more commonly a governor smart contract, and people can basically place votes on chain that propose what they want to do with those tokens. And you have to hold a certain amount of those tokens for that proposal to pass. Um, and that's not natively baked into a token contract. That's tokens just say this token represents X value or is a part of this finite group of tokens. Um, you need a separate smart contract to govern how to, um, you know, how to manage those tokens in a shared community on chain.
Thanks, Matt, for the answer. All right. So, any other questions from the floor? If not, all right. So, Matt, feel free to still stay behind if you'd like um, to just interact with the participants, or if any of the participants has any further questions that you'd like to ask Matt one on one instead of asking it on the chat where everyone can see, please feel free to approach him after this once the session has ended, and we'll be more than happy to assist. But otherwise, thank you everyone for joining us today. We hope everyone has learned something new and had a great interaction with Matt and learned more about DAOs. So thank you everyone, and we look forward to all of your participation and project submissions in the coming weeks. Thank you.